Hello, welcome back to another video on why comic books are so addictive. Um, the last video of this series, I was able to show pictures of my old local comic store, and luckily I was able to track down a person that used to work at the store, the wonders of the internet. And I have exchanged a few emails with him, and he was able to lead me to a few pictures of the outside of the store. And he said that he had a bunch of pictures of the interior, and it's in his computer somewhere. So if he can find it, he will email them to me. But we have a fun chat. We talk about the Ms. Marvel video game in the corner that all of us spent a lot of money on. And I should have mentioned in my previous video that the store was named Fantaco. And actually Fantaco is a fairly, I wouldn't say a big player, but it was more than just a local comic book store. I put a link below to the old pictures that he had of the two owners that opened the store back in 1978. So when I discovered the store in 1981, it is 3 years after the birth and the launch of Fantaco, the store. But there's a link below that gives you more description to the store, as well as the publishing that Fantaco Enterprise did. And I did remember all those magazines that they put out with Fred Hambeck. I think that's how you pronounce his name. So finding that store and buying my first comic book in 1981 was a big milestone. But if I had to sit here and look back through the years, I would say my favorite year is 1983. 81 was great because I got into the hobby and all that, but 83 was probably my favorite year of all time as far as the young collector that I was. Why is that, right? Well, I remember vividly that in 1982 I saw Camelot 3000 on the shelf at the comic book store, and this video basically was spurred watching one of Peter Parker video where he mentioned Camelot 3000. Camelot 3000 is a beautiful book, and I remember seeing it, but it was way too expensive. Back then, I can't recall what the cover price is of Camelot 3000, but it was spendy because it was in fancy glossy paper, and I just couldn't afford it. I still had my paper route. But in 1983, I finally got a job, a better paying job, at the grocery store, at a big grocery store chain in upstate New York, in Albany area, called, what's the name of the grocery store? The Grand Union. I'm not sure if Grand Union still exists, but it was a big chain that had store everywhere. So for those that live in upstate New York, you probably know what I'm talking about, but the store was Grand Union. That's a chain, grocery chain. And I got a job there bagging groceries, taking back recycles and bringing the groceries out to people's car. It was a minimum paid job, but I got a job there, and it was about 30 hours a week. I worked 5 days a week after school, from something like 4 to 9, 5 or 6 days a week I work. I love to work Saturday or Sunday because that's time and a half. But so in 1983, I got this great job after school, and I started to make a lot of money. It was a lot for my age back then. And so in 1983, I started to buy back issues. For sure, a lot of my early X-Men with John Burns was bought with the money. I bought some beautiful books, and years later I slapped some of them and I got 9.8, so it gave me a great feeling that I picked out the right books, even 20 years ago, 30 years ago. But as far as having a lot of extra money, I was able to start buying a lot of books off the rack that appeal to me. I no longer feel the need to be frugal, and that was a lot of fun because of that. In 1983, I was able to buy a lot of titles, and first, the first one that came to mind was Omega Man. I remember reading this issue 3 straight times when I got it home, because it was very different. It was very different from everything that I bought up until that point, and I enjoyed the art. Keith Giffen, it's he's really good artist, and I remember staring at the splash page quite a long time. The very first time I opened the book, and I thoroughly enjoyed this series. I did buy this series for the next couple of years. Sadly, I have given everything away to my nephew, and I think the only one issue that I kept is #1. But so Omega Man was the first expensive book. It was $1, back then. Prior to that, Camelot 3000, I thought that was crazy to spend that much on a book. But when Omega Man came out, it was okay. I can deal with paying $1 for this book, and I bought it, and it was a lot of fun. And through that, at the same time in 1983, Marvel and DC reissue a lot of Neal Adams' great work. So, part of that is, of course, the great reprint of the Green Lantern run. And, it was $2. It wasn't cheap, but I remember having no problem buying this entire run, and I still have them, and I probably will let somebody else enjoy this series because I have all the original book now. But so I have this run, and I bought it. It was beautiful. So for the first time in my life, I was able to enjoy the full Green Lantern, Green Arrow run from Neal Adams. Gorgeous work. It was so much fun. I reread this set of books. Let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, was 7 of them, and I must have reread them a dozen times after I got them. So I got that, and then also the big thing that came out in 1983 was the rerun of the reprint of Neal Adams' Avengers run with the Kree and Crow War, as well as his X-Men run. So there was a lot of good stuff that was higher price, and I bought them all for the first time ever. I was able to go to the store, and whatever I see, not a big deal. I was buying stacks and stacks of books every week. So it was a very fun year, and it opened my eyes to a lot of different things. Perhaps the one thing that it opened up and introduced me to that are probably very significant for me as a collector is this book. Now, up until this point, Frank Miller was not on my radar at all. I don't know why. For whatever reason, I was not looking at Daredevil. And granted, by now, Daredevil was, for the most part, Klaus Jensen doing the work, even if Frank Miller was involved with the book even in '82. But for whatever reason, I never even considered picking up Daredevil, and I didn't know anything about Frank Miller. But when this book in 1983 hit the stand, I was very interested in the art style. I enjoyed it very much. And I will go more into an in-depth discussion of Frank Miller when I do a video highlight, a series highlight on Frank Miller. But so this book mean a lot to me because it's the first time I saw Frank Miller work, the first time that it caught my attention, and it certainly bring me into his world. I love it. I love this series. A lot of fun for me to read. It's once again, it's completely different from anything else I have ever read, and forever thankful that I was able to discover Frank Miller. And lastly, of course, in 1983, which top off why it is such a special year. So far, everything that I show so far are part of all the fun new stuff that I was able to buy off the rack. And lastly is, of course, I have shown this book many times, being introduced to Bob Simonson through the page of Thor. So like it or not, I had to say 1983 was a big year for me because discovering Bob Simonson, discovering Frank Miller, and be able to buy a lot of the books that I want without hesitation. As far as affordability was a big thing. What year was it that you can think of that you could consider the best year of your collecting life? It could be right now, right? For some people, it might be hard, but for me, hands down, 1983 is the best of the best. Anyhow, thanks for watching. Bye.